Hello everybody, welcome back to the Weird Files. Today we're covering the Montauk Project. The Montauk Project is a conspiracy theory that states that the United States government conducted experiments in mind control, teleportation, contact with extraterrestrials, life, and the time travel from the early 1970s up until 1983 at Camp Hero in Montauk Point, New York. Apparently, the Montauk Project was allegedly meant to be a follow-up to the supposed Philadelphia experiment in 1943, another conspiracy theory. This conspiracy theory emerged earlier, as it emerged in the late 1950s, rather while the Montauk Project emerged in the early 1990s. As in 1992, a book was published called the Montauk Project: Experiments in Time, written by two men known as Preston B. Nicholas and Peter Moon. They claimed to have experienced the events of the Montauk Project, and in fact had repressed memories for many, many years, which caused them to only now remember the events of the project. And in the book, they tell their alleged story of the Montauk Project. And throughout the many years following the release of this book, they published many more books covering the story of what allegedly happened at Camp Hero and what happened during the Montauk Project. Now, allegedly, all of this took place underground, and this facility went down many, many, many floors deep underground. And alongside that, the Montauk Project is what inspired the TV series known as Stranger Things. Now, their stories have conflicted, as if you look through each of their books, they have contradicted themselves time and time and time again. Alongside that, there is no evidence, there are no government documents or records to report that any sort of experiments like that ever did take place in Montauk Point, though very similar experiments did in fact take place in real life that we know of, known as MK Ultra. MK Ultra lasted from the late 1950s to the early 1970s. Now, these are confirmed facts, as there have actually been declassified documents showing what actually happened, where they did experiment on people and even experimented on Canadian citizens. And these stories are very, very similar to what happened with the alleged Montauk Project, as according to the conspiracy theory, people were experimented on, children were experimented on, and they used people as experiment subjects, as as the conspiracy theory states that homeless people were kidnapped, and they experimented on these homeless people, and very few of them ended up surviving the experiments that they went through. And of course, this mirrors the real life cases where we know that the government did use, indeed, unwilling experiment test subjects, as they experimented on people in prisons and mental health hospitals during the 50s, 60s, and early half of the 70s. Now, there's no evidence to say that this ever did happen, that there were experiments like this in Montauk, but the truth is, the government did experiment on its own citizens. It did commit crimes against its own people. So we don't really need to be coming up with conspiracy theories stating the government experimented with mind control on people, and it kidnapped homeless people and experimented on them, and only a couple of them lived and survived, when they really did experiment on people unwillingly. They experimented on our prisoners, they experimented on our mentally unwell, they even experimented on foreign countries' people. Now, of course, the other claims that they experimented with time travel, and even staged the moon landing, apparently, in the books they say that they staged the moon landing, which there's a lot of evidence to say that the moon landing really did happen. If you look it up, you'll find a bunch of different reasons why exactly the moon landing could not have been faked. But this is also claimed in their books as well. Of course, that's just impossible for the moon landing to have been faked, and of course, sort of contact with alien life. That's not exactly too far out there that the government could have experimented with trying to contact aliens. People have tried it before, and there's even evidence to say that we did possibly really did get contacted by them some point in the past. Look at the WOW signal. But really, all in all, this is just an exaggerated version of seemingly a real-life thing. They claim that from from the 70s to the 80s. They experimented on people with mind control and stuff, and you psychological warfare when government did that. There's only conspiracy theories about that, And of course, the Philadelphia Project, which we'll cover in the next episode, is where allegedly it all began. When the Philadelphia experiment did not happen. It did not happen at all. There's a lot of evidence that shows that it could not have happened. That there's the records that show that what could have happened on that ship could not have happened there because the ship wasn't there. The ship was in a completely different place, and there's evidence and to say that that didn't happen. So really, it's just a big fabrication. The Montauk Project, but it did inspire Stranger Things. That's pretty cool, I would say. Yeah, that's all I gotta say, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you liked this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed making it. That's all I gotta say, ladies and gentlemen. Bye, have a nice time.